Good evening, everyone. My name is Vernisha Jones, and I am the president of the West Garfield Park Youth Council. And we believe we are the solution to the issues in our community. Our theme is Nothing With Us, Without Us. The West Garfield Park Youth Council is sponsored by Fathers Who Care, which is a nonprofit organization located on the west side of Chicago within the West Garfield Park community. The West Garfield Park Youth Council is comprised of young people from our community whose focus and concern is youth leadership and a voice within the community to reduce senseless violence and illegal substance use. We invite people from all over, especially our young people, to come in and see what we're all about. Our show will be scheduled every Thursday at 7 p.m. Again, that is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Our show can also be viewed online at www.cantv.live. Again, that is www.cantv.org/live. So today I'm speaking with Dr. Tanya Sorrell, Associate Professor, Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science Director, Rush Substance Use Disorder Center of Excellence Member, Board of Directors, Cook County Health Systems Assistant Director, Great Lakes Region, NIH, NIDA Clinical Trials Network Co-Chair, Illinois Harm Reduction and Recovery Coalition. So the reason why I said all that today, because I was looking, so when I text you about the TV show, my mindset was that I wanted to talk about something different, but at the same time, I wanted to acknowledge you and give you your flowers.
Oh, thank you.
For the most part, because I feel like we always come on here and we never say what it is you really do. We just be like this Dr. Sorrell. So I really just wanted to give you your flowers and thank you ahead of time for always being here for us and just, being a call away anytime we need you.
I'm always a call away, but thank you for those flowers. I know particularly for Black women that are working in these fields right now, we may sometimes feel like we're unspoken, or as Malcolm X may say, the most unappreciated person in the U.S. may be the Black woman. So I appreciate you giving those flowers and flowers out to all of you, in particular Black women that are helping with getting your kids getting ready for school and getting started in this new year while you're doing work, running the family, and holding up our lives.
Amen. She specializes in mental health and family support, and we're dicing into some of the biggest issues our youth and parents are facing today, like the impact of social media, how mental health is affecting our young people, and how families can build resilience together. Dr. Sorrell, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on my show this evening, and I want to thank everyone for watching and also everyone for your continued support. Are you ready to get into our conversation?
I think we need to, yes.
Okay. So the first question I have for you, what inspired you to specialize in psychiatry and focus on children, teens, and families?
Okay. Well, let me start by saying in psychiatry, what started me going was truly growing up in the South.
Okay.
I saw the disparities in terms of what was available versus not available. I saw the lives of those who were being affected by a number of the issues that were happening, particularly to people of color, and how it literally wore on their mental health, or as you may have heard an auntie say, wearing on your last nerve.
Yes.
And recognizing that, particularly for people of color, mental health issues, substance use issues, frequently go unnoticed. They go untalked about. There's a bit of a taboo culturally. Well, let's keep those secrets in the family. But in the meantime, those secrets are killing us and making a big difference in our lives. And so that was one of the reasons that I sought to look at getting my education, training, and the services that I do now in behavioral health and substance use issues.
And so with dealing with that, have you ever experienced something particular that it was just something that tragic happened in your life that it was just I need to focus into this type of work?
Now that's a good question. No one's asked me that before. I would have to say some of the emotionally tough times that happened in my life is my grandmother was one of the main ones that was raising me as my mom worked, my dad worked, everybody was busy. When I lost her when I was in the 7th grade, that was like a big piece of my life in that sense that was taken away. But particularly seeing and actually for me, kind of feeling the hurt of what I saw other people going through. Mm-hmm. There was a kid in my high school that ended up getting shot by police from an encounter that should have ended with a ticket or a warning, and it ended up with a funeral. And all of us at school were like, whoa, what is happening? It was being one of the first black kids to go to one of the high schools there. So basically desegregated part of the systems in the gifted and talented program in Baton Rouge. So kind of feeling like a Ruby Bridges certainly had some emotional impact in that. So those were the things that let me know, hey, this is an area that I need to be understanding in, knowledgeable in, and to be able to help people in general, but particularly people of color, to recognize that these issues, these experiences that we have, they don't have to set us back and keep us from reaching our path and reaching our goal.
Yes, I love it. And I love just hearing your stories about from living in the South and stuff. Because you was in Louisiana, right?
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Yes, Baton Rouge.
Oh, I love it. I love the food.
When it's time to cook, that's where, and that tells you too the resilience that our community has. May have experiencing slavery. We were talking about that, Jim Crow. But when it was time to get together and have family and culture, the richness of that culture was actually ended up what people tried to take.
Yeah.
The food, the Creole food, the gumbos, the jambalaya this time of year, the blues music, R&B, the dancing, all of that was the joy that kept us going through everything we experienced.
And I feel like that's one of the things is breaking apart.
And we need to get back to that. That's the soul of that kept us together.
Yeah.
It allowed us to say, hey, whatever hard times were happening, we're still a family, we're still a group, we're still a culture, a community, and we can endure. So you're right. As the community particularly starts to kind of break down some, we need to be able to work together, care for each other. Love, as your Reverend Jones says, to love on each other.
Love on each other.
To show people that, hey, we care. We're here to be able to help each other, to succeed, to overcome the trials that may happen in life, and to make sure that you do it with a richness of your spirit.
Yes, I love it. So from your perspective at Rush, what are the biggest mental health challenges young people are facing today?
Right now, the biggest issue is what both of us have on our screens here is our cell phones. Yeah. It's social media, and what is kind of becoming a new era that no one has a level of knowledge about. If we think about it, it was our grandparents that had to deal with kind of moving from the phone that hung on the wall with a cord to a cell phone. Now kids that are 3 and 4 can operate a cell phone better than you.
Yes.
But sadly, there's a lot of knowledge there, but there's also a lot of disinformation.
And I feel like they're not using it the right way either.
There's a lot of lies out there, and it's skewing, it's pushing and pulling people apart. You know, we recognize that the more kids may spend on their cell phones, the more disconnected they are from the family that's in their own house.
From the kids that's outside of their house.
Exactly. And the more likely that, and we know this from our research, the more likely kids are, the more time they spend on the phone, the more likely they may have anxiety issues, depression issues, self-esteem, or body image issues.
Yourself, trying to compare yourself.
Exactly. The comparison is truly real. And what we don't realize is we're comparing ourselves to fake profiles, reality TV that's all scripted. It's not real for them. A number of people on Instagram will say, oh, we're doing this, but then they find out, oh, they live in a totally different place. Yeah. Their life situation is totally different than when the camera is. Exactly. But young, impressionable minds see that and they're like, oh, this is the life to lead. You know, they see this new thing, particularly young boys, about this manosphere. You got to man up.
You can't cry.
Be an alpha male. Keep it to yourself.
You can't cry.
And what that literally is doing, teaching young men to not express their emotions, to hold it in until it comes out with a gun, to hold it in until it comes out with thoughts that life isn't worth living. Let me kill myself or kill my family, or take out my pain on other people rather than dealing with it appropriately. So being able to address those issues with early anxiety, depression issues, which may lead to substance use, because there actually is a area that we really study for youth. Youth between the ages of 4 and 14 may experience what we call adverse childhood experiences. So those may include any negative issue that may cause stress or particularly cause emotional or mental health stress for that child. Divorce in the family. Substance
And I feel like
use.
that's a big one that people don't
We
notice.
never talk.
It's
Yeah.
a big thing about kids.
Exactly. Divorce in the family, substance use in a parent, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, living in an environment where they may experience violence. And violence and trauma may happen not just their knowing about it, but hey, down the street, a kid's walking home from school and there's a drive-by and they end up getting shot. That is one of the what they call adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, that we have actually studied. And we recognize that sadly, over 50% of adults report at least experiencing one of those during their childhood. 1 in 5 adults has had 4 or more of those issues in their childhood. And what they found in studying kids from the late 1990s all the way to when they started publishing these studies is if you had experienced 3 or 4 of these adverse childhood experiences, you were more likely to have a diagnosis of anxiety or depression, more likely to potentially utilize alcohol or substances or drugs to try to cope with that stress, and more likely to have medical problems. Wait a minute, medical problems?
Really?
Yes. The mental health issues that you experienced related to divorce, family abuse, other types of abuse made it more likely that you had high blood pressure, diabetes, and other chronic illnesses, healthcare issues when you got older.
Wow.
So they've actually continued to track those initial participants, those initial subjects of research, because they want to see, could this actually shorten your life?
Yeah.
Could this mean that we need to do more healthcare as well as mental health care interventions for these groups? And the answer so far has been yes.
Wow.
And the best thing we can try to do is prevent those adverse childhood events from happening, because prevention is always easier and less expensive to try to help with. So we always encourage folks, especially if you're a parent, knowing that they're struggling, or if you're a parent, as you mentioned, that may be divorcing, the first thing you want to do is provide for that emotional support and recognizing that your child may need coping skills to help with the divorce. So we decrease the likelihood that they perceive that as the trying event that it is, and that it doesn't have a lasting impact. We can always reach out for help with that.
Wow. That's a lot. That was deep. That was definitely
You said you wanted to go deep.
And it makes sense.
I went there with you.
It definitely makes sense.
It
for
does.
real. When you think about it, it definitely makes sense. Wow.
Yeah.
So have you noticed any significant changes in our young people since the pandemic within mental health?
Yes.
Like, have it been a decrease, increase? I feel like an increase, but I want to know your professional opinion.
Okay.
Like, what you think? What's going on?
And there are researchers that are called epidemiologists.
Okay.
That's a big word from saying we're studying what everybody's getting and coming down with. And what they have seen is, yes, more people are developing issues related to loneliness, social isolation, anxiety, depression, and here's the sad part, suicide. Suicide. The 5 leading causes of death for someone between 12 and 25, number 3 is now an overdose, a drug overdose. Number 5 is suicide. Suicides are increasing in our population, particularly among black people. Generally, when we had a chart of who might be at a part where they might be ending their lives, black people, Latinos were more toward the bottom. Sadly, we're drifting up and we have access to guns and youth have access to weapons. So when they have those thoughts, oh, life isn't worth it, I'm just going to give up, forget it all, and they have a gun right there or drugs right there that they may take and in their lives are on purpose may overdose. So we are specifically seeing higher rates of suicides since the pandemics, more youth reporting that they're sad, they're depressed, or they're lonely. But thankfully, there are also more people reaching out for help. So we're hoping that because the stigma, and we just kind of touched a little bit on stigma of mental health and substance use in our communities, The stigma is hopefully lessening so that people can feel more comfortable reaching out for help.
Okay. And so, thinking about that, what lasting effects do you think we'll continue to see in this generation the way that we're going?
Two things that were the biggest part of the pandemic that we know that we're still seeing. Because those students that were in school during the pandemic, they had basically 2 years of school at home. Yeah. They are still socially less developed age-wise in two ways. So they're disconnected, as you said, from their other peers their age, from their family even, because a lot of kids just spent their time in the rooms doom scrolling on their phone.
And it was like you couldn't go around.
And you could, yeah. And but rather than kind of coming together as a family, it was like, and they're still studying what the effects were, but everybody was doom scrolling at home on their phone or watching television 24/7 as the news was just continuing to get worse and worse after George Floyd, after different people, all the names that we were having to remember during that time as well too. So that type of disconnect, but also their emotional and mental and social development. So that now a kid that may have had third grade and fourth grade from their home, their emotional development is still about a year behind where they should be for their age now. What does that mean? That means, so now a kid that will be going to middle school, 5th grade or 6th grade, that's when social and peer pressure is more. But they may not have the emotional intelligence, the ability to tell right from wrong, the ability to know, is this a good peer for a friend? Is this not a good peer for a friend? That level of discernment that normally would come with being at 11 or 12, it's not there. They're still at that elementary school level of social development. So that's one reason they think they're more at risk potentially if they're online with either potentially someone that's reaching out for them to meet with them, but this is a person that's not a peer age, any type of catfishing type activity that's happening online, because they're reaching out for help, but they don't have that maturity that normally would come at that age to know what's good help, what's not good help. Yeah. And so those are issues that we're still seeing.
Wow.
Think about it like this. One of the classes that we've had to start was to train particularly teen boys in social skills. How do you have a conversation?
I can agree with that.
Because they text all the time. How do you ask a girl out? Because they text all the time. How do you have a conversation if you go to dinner? I've seen and sat at a restaurant and seen 4 people sitting at a table together and everybody's on their phone. How do you have a conversation? And what we're starting to see is people saying, okay, well, I want to ask you to the prom. And the girl may say no. That boy doesn't have the emotional ability to even manage their anger. That's why we're starting to get, someone told them no, and so they beat them up. We're having adults that are doing that. Someone told them no, and we shoot them.
Or you're talking about them, or you
because they don't have the social skills that they should. So we've had to start social skills classes for teen boys because they're either on their PlayStation, or they're on their phone. They don't know how to interact socially. So what happens when you go to get a job? How do you answer the interview questions? How do you?
And I've been hearing a lot of that as far as us working with kids. When you would be surprised, like with me, like when I hear certain stuff, it's like that's common sense. I know that's common sense. I know, but when you go and talk to kids nowadays and you ask them certain questions, you would think in your mind like it's common sense, but our young people really
miss that, and sadly the phone and texting has allowed them to miss learning those social skills that they need. How do you say please and thank you? How do you say yes? How do you start a conversation? You don't just walk up to the girl and say, hey, you want to go to see a movie? You have to say, hey, what are your common interests? What are the things? You got to get to know them. And so we're really seeing that as a big concern regarding socialization. because it's keeping kids isolated. They don't feel comfortable doing it. They don't have the skills to do it. They don't know what to say, so they stay to themselves. They develop an AI friend that they talk to on their,
That's been big.
on the PS5,
GP,
Yes. They G chat with somebody, they chat GP with somebody, and then that's enough. But that isn't enough because it's not real. It's fake. And so we're really seeing a number of those issues happen. And that's leading to, we know, that continued isolation. They're on internets and social media that actually kind of skews you to the negative. Mm-hmm. If you notice, when you click on something, you'll read that article. The next thing, it's like 2 or 3 other articles, but it gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
And it'll take you into what they call a rabbit hole of the negativity. That's why they may feel that some kids may be at risk potentially of violence, because if they're reading about very conservative things, we're about to have a race war. There's about to do this. And all of a sudden they think they need to join the Proud Boys. If we're reading on, what's a foundational Black American? And then all of a sudden they're going Hotep, or they're looking at the nation,
and I know this is definitely
a Hebrew Israelite.
A lot.
And that's part of the algorithm. And young kids don't know that. They just think that they're scrolling and seeing, routine or incidental. But there's no incident about it. It's very purposefully done. And sadly, it can take someone on a bad path.
Wow. Time be flying. Oh my God. So there's one question I want to ask you before I get into the last couple of questions.
Okay.
And we're going to have to do a part 2 because I actually enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
So I want you to allow our parents to know what practical steps can parents take to help their kids build a healthier relationship with technology and social media without being like I wouldn't say a burden, but being where they got to take their kids' phone. Like, how do we better help our kids when it comes to that type of stuff?
Right, because if you just say, okay, no phone for you, that doesn't help anything. We learned that with the war on drugs. You can't just say don't do drugs, because that's kind of like a kid in the candy store. You're like, well, telling me not to do it means, hey, I want to do it. Why are you trying to keep that from me? Mm-hmm. First, we have to be good role models ourselves.
Okay.
That's the most important thing. Additionally, we have to recognize that, hey, we're human. One misstep isn't going to ruin the child's life. Sometimes we as parents put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I got to do this right. I got to do this right. We're going to make mistakes. The learning comes in how you handle your mistake with the child. Oh, I don't make a mistake. I don't mess up. No, you're training the child to say, hey, I said something the other day and I got angry with you. I shouldn't have said it like that. I'm going to work to be able to talk and communicate with you better, because then you're showing them, the child, how to act and how to say you're sorry, how to respond and talk to people so you don't blow up and you don't kick a hole in the wall when there's something. You literally are the role model that your child spends the most time with. So everything that you want your child to do, you have to role model it first, and that means, are we gossiping about people? Because then that's what kids learn how to do, is to gossip. Mm-hmm. Are we bullying people?
Even at a really, really young age.
At a young age.
Like, you have to start, these kids be 2, you can't, and that's one thing I learned, you have to, when they 1, 2, you have to pay attention to the type of stuff that you're doing around them, because they're mimicking.
Your 3-year-old knows the bad words that you say when you're angry or stub your toe.
Yeah.
So you start there by showing them, hey, I'm not bullying other people. I'm being nice, and I'm showing empathy. Hey, if there's someone there that looks homeless, I may ask, have you eaten today? Do you need some food? That way they learn to think about someone other than themselves. Mm-hmm. So you're teaching them not to be selfish, and you're teaching them to care for the poor, which is what we all need to do. Treat someone else the way we want to be treated. The main things we want to look at doing is, first, though, we want to work on scheduling what time may be. And there actually are ratings and recommendations. So if a child is under 2, they don't need to be on the phone unless they're kind of FaceTiming with a family member. Oh, let's call Granny, and so you can see Granny. They don't need to have time on the phone at all. Between ages 2 and 5, and this is from the American Academy of Pediatrics, so all the pediatric doctors that recommend this. Exactly. A couple of reasons why. Because one, their children's eyes are developing at that time. The different cells in your eyes, the rods and cones, there's different little cells in your eyes. When you take biology class, you'll read about it, that help you to see. they're developing and getting stronger and maturing at that time. If we have too much face time with the phone at that time, we may impair how that develops. We don't want to do that. Between 2 and 5, about 2 hours at most during the day. And remember, sometimes a kid might be kind of whining or crying, and we may sometimes just hand them a game. You know, I've got a cousin that I can fix it. Wait. How did you unlock my phone? And you realize that they just kind of moved it by your face, and I'm like, I'm on the phone, Auntie Tanya. I'm like, wait a minute. So we have to be monitoring that. And then once kids get they're in school now, a lot of elementary schools are using that as well too. So know that there are resources available. You monitor your child's time. You monitor the passwords. You watch what they're seeing online so you know, so that nothing is a surprise.
Okay. And thank you all for watching tonight. I'm going to ask you one more question, and that's going to take us until the end of this show. And I just want to thank everyone for watching. And like I said, reach us out next week, same time, same station. My last question for you. When you think about the next generation, what gives you hope about how we can better support our youth mental health? We've
talked about a lot of negative, but these young people, they know that they have good independence. They know they don't have the stigma as much about mental health and substance use as we did in our day. They also are very much for social justice. They see the wrongs that are happening in our world, and they want them to be right. So they have the courage to move forward, especially in these times, to say, this isn't right. What do we need to do to make our lives better? They are entrepreneurs, so they're starting up their own YouTube pages and TikTok channels so that they can make money or develop their own businesses. So they've got a lot of gumption and spunk to move us ahead. We want to support them in that way to be the best, what we call social, emotional, and emotionally intelligent humans that they can be. And that's going to put us in a great place to move forward.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being a guest on my show tonight. And thank you, everyone, for watching. See you guys next week. Same time, same station.
Take care, guys.